exactly what you make it. So please don't go wasting. And I'll do the same, even if it's raining. How could I complain? And my feels got me feeling some type of way. You always free to take a break. Hope you feel what I felt. You gotta look after yourself. Sometimes it can get lonely, never living in the moment. When the sun is shining, hope that I'm reminded. Like how the clouds keep changing, I'm always steady rearranging. Going back to the basics of what a good day is. 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 And that's exactly what today is.
All right, y'all know what to do. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back in the building on this Friday morning. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me. We're gonna go ahead and get into it. Finally, good Lord. Happy Friday, y'all. We should be good. I see some ones popping up in the chat. You know what we have to do? We got to see how we looking up in here. Hopefully we're doing okay. Oh man, there we go. Looking all crispy and clean on the screen. Welcome, y'all. Welcome back to another YouTube live stream and another episode of the Music Morning Show. I'm your host, ClassE Beats from ClassEbeats.com. Today, we're doing a little bit of a recap. We missed some testimony yesterday from Detective Investigator Hybrid Super. I don't know what she's got going on. Big Burrito over there, aka Marissa Viverito. So we're going to listen to some more of that testimony from her yesterday. Skip through some of the dry parts, of course, and then we've got some breaking news, man. Our guy Rice Street is coming under fire. We're gonna get into it here in a minute, but the Justice Department stepping in and looking into some of the things that are going on in Rice Street. It's about to get wild, y'all. But before we get into it, let me say what's up to the people, man. Shout out to everybody who's in here. Of course, the awesome, amazing Amy is here first thing in the morning. Rice Street, it seems like Rice Street's cool and not upset. You got some explaining to do, Rice Street. Alabama, Gigi's in here. Krisha, Bama Girl. A lot of people from Alabama this morning. We got Deborah Lewis in here. Christopher, my guy Mark. Excuse me, Yasir is in the building. Monteresa, good morning. Samantha Crumbly. We've got A Fitz. Michi is back in here. G.A. Bunny's in the building. Says, I have a question for whoever can answer this, please. Has Max played the video of the third car yet? Showing the flash from that third vehicle was the one who fired at Drinks. He has not yet, but he's been working up to it beautifully. And he mentioned it even yesterday a couple of times. Or no, it wasn't yesterday. It was on Wednesday. And he was asking about, you know, if there was a vehicle and it pulled up and they fired shots into another car, wouldn't you see a muzzle flash in the video? And then of course, Miss Hilton objected, but we all know and we can see exactly where Max is going. So hold on, GA Bunny. I know we all want him to get there, but as soon as the state rests, we can be rest assured that Max is going to bring in his own experts and he's going to reveal his thoughts on that third car. So I'm looking forward to it too. Blue Eyed Hillbilly is in here. Shout out to the Cat Not Williams gang in the building. Leona's in here. Lavisa, good to see you. Anita. Who else? M. Shout out to M. The Honorable Attorney Kel Bell is in the building as well. Rice Street says, y'all don't worry. I talked to the Department of Justice yesterday. I'm good. A little paint and I'm back in the game. Oh my gosh. I don't think that's the case. Tanya's in here. 904 Cowboy Canes. We got Asia in the building. Jay Buckmaster, I appreciate you. Who else did I miss? We've got NY to the D. Shout out to you. Ducky Dexter, Texas T, Jim R is in here. Dennis, shout out to Dennis. We've got Angie. Woo. Okay, I think I said good morning to a lot of y'all. I'll be saying good morning as we're going and throughout the show and reviewing this videos. If you could do me one favor, please make sure you like the video on your way in. Not only does it help the show continue to grow, not only is it free, but it lets the YouTube algorithm know that you guys are enjoying the show, and it shares the video with more people. All right, y'all heard me have some smoke for Rice Street this morning. We got to go ahead and get into this breaking news. Less than 24 hours ago, too, Rice Street is coming under fire. Uh-oh. And we're going to listen to this video from the Department of Justice and actually find out what is going on in Rice Street. So recently, there's been some investigation into a lot of the accusations that are going on inside of Rice Street when it comes to the shower situation. Y'all know about the showers, to the food, to them being on lockdown for a ridiculous amount of times. And finally, the Department of Justice is stepping in, and they made a statement about their investigations yesterday. Before we get into it, though, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Dennis Byron, who y'all know he was in the courtroom at one point. He got his Rule 22 kind of modified in a way. We won't get into that, but he's an excellent reporter, and he's been talking about some of the things that are going on with the Department of Justice investigation. So what did he say this morning? He said, "Sound the alarm. It is my strong belief that the Fulton County Jail is a tool being used by the prosecutors and judges to force individuals to accept plea deals." Rice Street. Rice Street said, "It's been fun, guys. I'm logging off." No, you better stay your ass right here. All right. Plea deals they would not have ordinarily accepted. For example, Munktunk. Y'all know he was in Rice Street. His mother was dealing with health issues. He wanted to get out. We've heard of several of the defendants who they were sent to Rice Street as punishment because they knew the conditions were so bad there. I mean, this is not the first time we're hearing about this, but I'm glad something is finally being done. Byron also says, Mr. Byron also says, "Don't tell me you respect the United States Constitution and individual human rights when you allow this to happen. It's high time that jail must be closed." He also goes on to say, "Judges can give home confinement with GPS monitoring as well as attainable bonds to help reduce the dangers of life and limb while forcing prosecutors to prove their cases without using the torture chambers of the Fulton County Jail." And then lastly, he says defense attorneys in Fulton County should be filing habeas writs immediately to save their clients from possible torture and or death in the county jail. No time to sit on the sideline and complain. Time for the people to take action and protest to protect the human rights of others. Innocent until proven guilty. Time to make America great again. Very well said. Shout out to Dennis Byron. And he actually tags the President of the United States, which we all know will soon be my guy, Donald Trump. So let's get into this and see what the Department of Justice had to say and what they found in their investigation. Rice Street is not looking good, my guy, and you better stay right here. Here we go.
At the U.S. Department of Justice. Joining me is Ryan Buchanan, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. The Justice Department has completed a comprehensive investigation into conditions at the Fulton County Jail here in Fulton County, Georgia. Our investigation finds long-standing unconstitutional, unlawful, and dangerous conditions that jeopardize the lives and well-being of the people held there.
Not surprised.
We cannot turn a blind eye to the inhumane, violent, and hazardous conditions that people are subjected to inside the Fulton County Jail. Detention in the Fulton County Jail has amounted to a death sentence for dozens of people who have been murdered or who died as a result of the atrocious conditions inside the facility. It's not just adults, but also young people who are subjected to conditions and treatment that violate the Constitution and defy federal law. Many people held in jails in our country have not been convicted. They are awaiting hearings, trial dates, or are serving short sentences for misdemeanors.
Yep.
We find that the Fulton County Jail does not adequately protect incarcerated people from violence, such as stabbing, sexual abuse, or even murder. Physical deficiencies in the environment, such as unlocked doors and large holes in the walls, permit and even facilitate the brutality.
We even heard the officer say, yeah, they just put some stuff up in the door and it makes the door in Rice Street loose and it doesn't lock all the way. I mean, y'all saw the video. We showed the video of what went down in Rice Street. It's nasty work. Nasty.
Incarcerated people use makeshift weapons built out of jail fixtures to attack others, including vulnerable people with mental health needs and 17-year-old young people. In 2023 alone, we identified 314 stabbings and more than 1,000 assaults. This rate of violence exceeds what we've seen in other cities across the country. The Fulton County Jail had as many stabbings in a single month as the Miami-Dade County Jail had all year. And that's a facility with 1.5 times more people. Since 2022, six people in the jail have lost their lives to violence. I'll walk through additional court findings set forth in the report that we're issuing today. Living conditions at the jail are hazardous and unsanitary. Housing units are flooded from broken toilets. Roaches, rodents, and pests abound. Standing water, exposed wiring, and vermin make living areas unsafe. The jail does not provide enough food, leaving people severely malnourished. The jail fails to provide constitutionally adequate medical and mental health care to people at the jail, exposing people to preventable bad outcomes, including injury, seriousness, illness, pain and suffering, mental health decline, and even death. The lack of security staff and failure to prioritize health services impede access to care. Medical emergencies do not receive appropriate medical responses. People at risk of suicide do not receive sufficient protection, and people with...
Y'all remember Quindarius Zachary was in Rice Street, about to die of sickle cell. I mean, they just did not care. They did not care.
Serious mental health needs do not receive adequate treatment. The jail uses solitary confinement, also known as restrictive housing, in discriminatory and unconstitutional ways that expose people, particularly 17-year-olds and people with mental health disabilities, to risk of harm, including acute mental illness and self-injury. The jail uses lengthy confinement in restrictive housing as punishment without written explanation, which violates due process. As Georgia is one of only 4 states where the juvenile justice system's jurisdiction ends at 16, there are 17-year-old boys and girls also held at the jail. And these 17-year-old boys and girls are exposed to particular harm. The jail does not provide special educational services to 17-year-olds who are entitled to them under a federal law known as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It fails to protect these children from violence, including sexual abuse, and it uses isolation to punish them, which both violates their rights and contradicts clear research that such isolation uniquely harms our young people. The jail staff also uses excessive force. This includes deploying tasers without reasonable cause. For example, detention officers tased a man after he said he felt like hurting himself and needed to see a mental health specialist. Such violations stem from understaffing, poor policies, and lack of training and supervisory failures. The summary that I have just shared is harrowing enough, but individual experiences are gut-wrenching. For example, Lesean Thompson, a black man with serious mental illness, entered the jail on low-level charges and was confined to the mental health housing unit. 3 months later, staff found him dead in his cell, infested with lice, and as a medical examiner concluded, neglected to death. Several months before that,
This
another
was a
black
huge
man
case
with
here.
serious mental illness died after he stopped taking his medication. 2 more black men with mental health disabilities were murdered by their cellmates. Weeks after we opened our investigation, 6 more black men died at the jail. All of this is a racial justice issue. 91% of the people living in these abhorrent, unconstitutional conditions are black, as compared to 45% of Fulton County's overall population. It's also important to note that the vast majority of the approximately 2,000 people held at the jail have not been convicted of a crime. They are awaiting hearings and have yet to be tried, many of them. There are also a significant number of people with mental health disabilities. During
It's
our
bad, y'all.
investigation, we worked closely with correctional, medical, mental health, and educational experts. We physically inspected the jail and
She said
observed housing
infest.
units. We visited medical and mental health service areas. We reviewed thousands of pages of documents and interviewed dozens of jail staff and leadership. And we listened to the people held inside the jail and their advocates and their family members. We thank officials for their cooperation, and we thank all of those who provided valuable information and whose advocacy
Sorry about the static, y'all.
predates this investigation. I'll note that officials have taken preliminary steps to improve conditions, but they simply are not enough. We hope
No.
our findings report sounds an alarm that will prompt the Fulton County Board of Commissioners and the Sheriff's Office to swiftly implement the comprehensive reforms necessary to ensure constitutional conditions going forward. At the end of the day, people do not abandon their civil and constitutional rights at the jailhouse door. Jails and prisons across the country must protect people from the kind of gross violations and unconstitutional conditions that we have uncovered here. I'll now turn the floor over to U.S. Attorney Buchanan.
Yeah, and I've got the article for y'all about Lesean Thompson. If you haven't heard this story, it is absolutely insane. It was a major story that was going throughout the news cycles here in Fulton County and really across the U.S. last year. And this man's tragic death inside of a Fulton County prison, Rice Street, namely. So we'll go through that here in a second. And I'll let this gentleman speak and give more of an insight into what's going on behind the scenes.
Good afternoon. I'm Ryan Buchanan, and I'm the United States Attorney here in the Northern District of Georgia. 1974, Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall wrote, "When the prison gates slam behind an inmate, he does not lose his human quality, his mind does not become closed to ideas, his yearning for self-respect does not end, nor is his quest for self-realization concluded." 50 years later, our comprehensive investigation into the conditions of confinement at Fulton County Jail has, at its basic level, revealed that the men and women and young people who find themselves housed at the jail are often left to wonder whether their humanity remained intact once they crossed the threshold of the jail facilities.
Nasty.
Whether at the main jail, which is known to many in our community as Rice Street, or at its annex facilities, people in custody in Fulton County who are accused of crimes or awaiting formal charges or trials must protect themselves from brutal physical attacks by other detainees, subjected
That's
to
nothing
frequent
new.
excessive force, manage their well-being with inadequate food and unsanitary living conditions, and hope that they can find access to a strained medical and mental health care program.
Not to mention they don't have the security guards there that are able to help maintain the living situations or how things are even run. Because as we mentioned a couple of months ago, Fulton County didn't even have the money to pay the security team that was running Rice Street, and they just left. And all these guys were sitting there. It's just bad. I made a video about it as
The
well.
most obvious
I'll drop the
casualties
link for
of
y'all.
civil rights violations occurring in the jail are those who leave the jail in body bags. but our investigation has revealed hundreds more injured, traumatized, and dehumanized people, all of whom are just as deserving of the protections of the Constitution as all of us in this room. Since we announced our investigation in July of 2023, the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia and the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice have worked diligently to meet our shared mission: to advance the public safety, to uphold the rule of law, and to protect civil rights. There is no greater example of this mission at work than protecting and vindicating the rights of those who are under the custody and control of jail authorities, who themselves are duty-bound to protect the public and those in their custody. We began our investigation after Lesean Thompson was found in his cell, neglected to death, covered in lice. But in
disgusting.
the time since his death, several more young men detained in the jail have died, and many died violent deaths. Our investigation revealed unacceptably high incidents of assaults and stabbings, and in some cases, most disturbingly, jail staff witnessed and allowed the attacks without intervention.
Dang.
2023 alone, there were over 1,000 assaults and more than 300 stabbings in the Fulton County Jail.
314 to be
Outpaces
exact.
the rate of similar assaults in other major city jails, almost 2 to 1. Those numbers only reflect the reported attacks. Many detainees told our team that they explained that they feared for their safety. They were reported that they had been stabbed or assaulted. One such detainee was left untreated for multiple stab wounds for a week until
God
our
damn.
team alerted the jail of his injuries. Also unaccounted for in these disturbing numbers are numerous allegations of violent rape, sexual assault, and harassment. The
Nobody's
crisis of violence
surprised.
in the Fulton County Jail has resulted in part because of the lack of effective classification and housing planning, which allows for extremely violent individuals and gang members to be housed with vulnerable and low-risk individuals. And particularly, vulnerable individuals are most subject to violence in the jail, including people with serious mental illness, gay and transgender detainees, and 17-year-olds. In addition, the Fulton County Jail employs too few guards relative to the number of detainees to keep people safe, and poor maintenance of basic fixtures allows violence to go unchecked.
They're not even Fulton County
But numbers
employees.
aside, jail staff are often unaware of violence because they conduct inadequate security rounds. We uncovered incidents where hours or even days passed before victims of assaults were discovered by staff. In one shocking case, while an officer sat in an observation tower, a man was killed with his hands and his feet bound. Not found until his body was extremely cold.
Jeez.
Additionally, hundreds of broken light fixtures and cell doors allow violent detainees to move about at will in the shadows, and sometimes through the very walls of the facility. Equally alarming, men and women in the Fulton County Jail also experience violence from the staff. Our investigation showed the crisis of violence, the lack of security at the Fulton County Jail is paired with staff that resort to the use of force too quickly and too often.
Yeah, i.e. tasing a guy that's getting attacked by someone else. Y'all saw that? Y'all remember when we were looking at the footage from Rice Street? And I should pull up this video, but it is pretty graphic. I might pull up the video we reacted to. And they showed the officer struggling to get out of his post. And he had his taser, was yelling at the guys to break it up. And he was having trouble breathing because he ran, I don't know, 10 yards and tased both of them. This is nothing new, man. And I think I want to shout out to the community because some people don't think a lot of what we do here is important. But when we're covering topics like this, y'all know the state's watching. You know there are people watching. And you don't always know who's seeing the videos and the content that we're putting out. But they're watching what's going on during this trial. They're hearing Law and Crime. They're seeing Cat Williams, the lead attorney, AV, so many of us, Dear World Christian, on Twitter, on X, cover what's going on and what's happening here and all the injustices done, and they just can't let it go. So what we're doing, although it's fun and it's entertaining, it is important. I thank y'all for being a part of this too.
We found that staff were regularly deploying tasers and pepper spray without any warning, and for
There we
minor
go.
rule infractions like failing to hang up a phone quickly enough, yelling, or not putting items away as instructed. The rampant use of tasers is particularly disturbing.
Yeah, because they're out of shape.
Risk of cavalier deployment of tasers is not just the temporary pain of electrocution. Detainees have been hospitalized for serious injuries caused by probes that are embedded in sensitive parts of the body, like the neck and even in the bone.
Dang.
The excessive use of force in the jail is not confined to a few bad actors. Officers lack policy and training guidance on whether and when force is appropriate.
Someone
When
mentioned that in the
officers cross
chat.
the line, the jail rarely holds them to account. In some cases, the policy is glaringly inconsistent with established use of force techniques. Written policies explicitly state that staff may deploy their tasers against suicidal or emotionally disturbed persons without any assessment of danger to themselves or to others. Staff are permitted to use force when a person interrupts their work, and the use of force reports and supervisor reviews bear this out. Supervisors rarely assess a need for the use of force if they do it at all.
Wow.
Perhaps most concerning, our investigation showed that even when the jail determines that an officer used excessive force, discipline is virtually non-existent. Those officers go back to their jobs to repeat the same conduct.
Why wouldn't they? It's all they
Aside
have.
from the glaring risk of violence, detainees face the insidious threat of unsafe living conditions, constant exposure to rodents and pests, and an unsettling disregard for food safety. Detainees in the Fulton County Jail lack basic necessities like working toilets and sinks.
Showers.
Exposed to flooding, standing water, mold, and what could only be described as filth. Pests carrying bacteria and disease not only run rampant in food preparation areas, but have infested the bodies of the people in the jail, people like Lesean Thompson. Earlier this year, our team was evacuated from a housing unit in the jail because of a lice outbreak.
Dang.
Given the high incidence of violence in the jail, the need for adequate medical and mental health care is critical. But Fulton County Jail has failed to provide constitutionally adequate care to the men, women, and young people in the custody at Fulton County Jail in virtually all respects. For a time, because of the unsafe conditions in the jail, Fulton County's health care provider, NAFCare, nearly terminated its contract to provide medical and mental health services for fear that their staff would become victims of the dangerous environment without proper security escorts. The lack of security left an entire floor of the jail without adequate access to care because it was simply too dangerous for the health care workers to go inside. Medication and treatment are often impeded by flooding in the unit, power outages, and the unavailability of officer escorts. This lack of care in the Fulton County Jail has led to at least 17 non-homicide, non-suicide deaths in 2022 and 2023, a rate that is more than twice the national average since 2019.
Jeez.
A detainee who reported chest pain later died of a heart attack. Jail failed to assess a man for rapid weight loss before he died, much like Lesean Thompson, who died after losing over 30 pounds in 3 months. These figures likely underreport the true death toll of people who were transported out of the jail to Grady Hospital and died outside of the jail walls. If someone dies in the jail, there's little or no effort by the jail to determine the root cause of their death. 75% of the people who have died in Fulton County Jail since 2021 had a current mental health diagnosis or a history of mental illness. Perhaps unsurprisingly,
Woody mentioned that
mental
too.
health treatment options and suicide prevention practices are grossly inadequate in Fulton County Jail. Our team observed firsthand how custody staff deprioritize mental health issues and fail to respond appropriately to concerns. Requests for mental health treatment are delayed or ignored, and mental health staff are simply unable to provide the minimum standard of care for those who need it. Daily medication is often unavailable, and suicidal detainees are often isolated and locked in restrictive housing in lieu of treatment. And when people are released from the Fulton County Jail, they are frequently left without the medication needed to sustain their health, without notice to their families, and sometimes actively experiencing a mental health episode. This is not a recipe for ensuring the safety of these individuals upon release or the safety of our community.
You know, you heard during Young Thug's plea deal how he mentioned that Judge Whitaker saved his life because she allowed him to see everything that was going on around him and how he was moving the wrong way. Think of the light that this trial has shown, not only on Fannie Willis and the corruption in the DA's office, but everything that's going on down to some of the misconduct being practiced by the detectives involved in investigations, to police officers, and now here to what's going on in the Fulton County jail system. We would have never known about this. Let's be real. We would not be talking about this. I mean, I might, but over 2,000 of y'all who are in the chat right now would not be even considering or thinking about this if it weren't for this YSL trial. So, I mean, with some of the bad that's happened in this case, a lot of good has come out of it. And hopefully this is a step in the right way. But man, we've got a lot of work to do, Atlanta, Georgia.
Upon release or the safety of our community. And it is constitutionally unacceptable.
It's scary to think.
Finally, I'd like to speak about a population in the Fulton County Jail that many may not know exists. A population of 17-year-old boys and girls. All of the constitutional violations that I've discussed today apply with equal force to the young people housed at Rice Street and the annex facilities. The average stay of a 17-year-old in the Fulton County Jail is 392 days. In that time, they are particularly and uniquely at risk for violence, lack of access to mental health care, risk of suicide while in isolation in restrictive housing. During the team's tour of the South Annex, they learned the boys there were held in their cells for 22 hours or more, frequently. The girls housed at Rice Street fare no better. And to the extent that these young people require a kind of specialized educational programs that are called for by federal law, they are not getting them. In fact, no educational services of any kind are provided to the 17-year-old detainees in Fulton County.
It's sad, man.
These young people deserve better. You'll see that our report lays out the bare minimum measures Fulton County Jail must take to comply with its obligations under the Constitution and federal law. We are appreciative of the cooperation of Fulton County Sheriff thus far, and we look forward to working with them going forward to remedy these civil rights violations in the weeks and months to come.
I wonder who the warden is. Let me
The
see.
Northern District of Georgia prioritizes the protection and enforcement of civil rights for our district's most vulnerable residents. We are grateful for the impactful partnership for our colleagues from the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. We would not be here today without their collaboration. 2022, when I became U.S. Attorney, we formalized our tradition of civil rights work in this office. It's a tradition that dates back to the very first United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. We did so by formally establishing a public integrity and civil rights section. This talented, dedicated team of assistant U.S. attorneys, investigators, paralegals, legal assistants, and even interns are to be commended for this work. This team is comprised of people who are citizens of this district, people who live in Fulton County and work every day in Fulton County. They have spent countless hours in the Fulton County Jail speaking with the men, women, and young people housed at the Fulton County Jail. I'm proud to be their colleague. I'm grateful for their relentless effort in upholding the rule of law, advancing the public safety, and protecting civil rights. That's our mission. We relish the opportunity to fight for the rule of law, for the safety of our citizens, and for the civil rights of every human being who lives in the Northern District of Georgia. We do so because our Constitution and our mission mandate equal justice under the law for everyone. Thank you.
At this time, we'll open the press conference to public hearing.
Do you, just listening to everything that you guys laid out, what is your recommendation? It sounds like Fulton County Jail needs to be shut down. Do you recommend Fulton County Jail be shut down immediately?
Our report actually sets
They
forth
should.
the remedial measures that we think that the jail can put in place to cure the violations that we have identified. They are set forth in the back section of our report. They include improving staffing and security, using a housing and classification system, reducing contraband through increased oversight, improving the physical conditions of the jail, ensuring that medical and mental health care is constitutionally adequate, and ensuring appropriate use of restrictive housing to avoid serious risks associated with isolation. So in short, we can fix these problems, and we are pleased that Fulton County has pledged to cooperate with us in doing so in the road ahead.
I mean, that's a nice scripted answer, but we're going to go through and I'm going to show you all what happened to Lesean Thompson. If you're watching this on the replay or in the standalone video, you'll be able to see what happened in the next video, and I'll have it linked in the description. But when it comes to saving Rice Street, it ain't looking great. And we'll talk about it here shortly.
We've heard a lot of back and forth between the Fulton County Sheriff and the Commissioners about who's ultimately responsible for these problems. Were you guys identifying kind of a point person who needs to lead these charges? Is it a funding issue? Is it a sheriff issue?
Well, we're looking forward to working with Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Department to negotiate a resolution, and we recognize that this is an important issue for the community, and they will certainly play an important part in the process.
They're one kind of more responsible, or I guess ultimately responsible for the well-being of these inmates.
I think all officials have a role here, and look forward to working with both the county and the Sheriff's Department in the road ahead.
What is your specific time frame, and then how will your office proceed based on the efforts of the county to address this issue?
We are hoping to turn the page today. We've provided our findings to the county and look forward to moving swiftly to address the violations that we have identified. This is a life and death matter for many, given the severity of the violations that we have uncovered.
Have they been given a time frame to address it?
No specific time frame, but we are ready to roll up
No
our
time
sleeves
frame?
and work now with the county to address these serious issues.
And you listed a number of civil rights violations.
Sorry, y'all.
Is anybody being held accountable for the actions that have happened thus far, be it charges?
Trying to get his email,
legal
y'all. Sorry.
action? Who's being held accountable? Is anybody being held accountable for what's happened?
It's an important question. We have heard the calls for accountability. This is a civil investigation carried out pursuant to a federal law known as the Civil Rights of Institutionalized Persons Act. What we're seeking to do here is put in place the systemic reforms needed to ensure the safety of those housed at the Fulton County Jail going forward.
That doesn't really answer the question, though. His question is who's responsible for this? And if y'all want to, speaking of which, if y'all want to send an email to Patrick Labat, we got to see him speak in a press conference, I did a video about where they were talking about the security team being pulled out of Rice Street. You can find him here on the Fulton County website. I'm trying to see if I could find his email for y'all so I can drop it in the description. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I put his email in the chat for y'all. That's his Fulton County email. And then, okay, Amy got his sheriff's office email in there as well. So yeah, if y'all again want to take some steps to do more to help the situation, that's one way you can do it. But I want to hear this question
This
again.
is a civil investigation carried out pursuant to a federal law known as the Civil Rights of Institutionalized Persons Act. What we're seeking to do here is put in place the systemic reforms needed to ensure the safety of those housed at the Fulton County Jail going forward.
I know things are laid out in the report, black and white, but did you know it was going to be this bad, this inhumane, unconstitutional when you went in? And does any of this shock you?
Of course it's shocking. People have died. We started in July of 2023.
It's not
after
shocking.
the tragic death of Lesean Thompson. Obviously, when you start something where someone has died, you're already at, in many respects, rock bottom. And so we continued to investigate. Unfortunately, we found that Lesean Thompson was not the only person who died as a result of these conditions. And then if you scale back beyond just those who died, but those who I mentioned were traumatized, dehumanized, and the like, you come up with a situation that we believe is just unacceptable for our community. And so all of the atrocities that are listed in this report are disturbing, all warrant prompt attention by the Fulton County authorities, and we look forward to working with them as quickly as possible to provide a remedy.
Have you been in contact with Lesean Thompson's family? They've been very vocal about his death, held protests, all kinds of things. Have you guys personally reached out, or the team reached out to the Thompson family?
We've been in touch with a number of families, a number of advocates, and people housed at the jail, all who shared their testimony, and those stories and lived experiences of people housed at the Fulton County Jail very much informed the findings that we issue today.
Is there any kind of action you guys can take to ensure that these recommendations become reality in an efficient manner?
Well, as I said, we are prepared to roll up our sleeves and begin working today with Fulton County officials to address these violations. But we hope our findings report sends a loud message to other officials across the country about the need to ensure that conditions for people housed in jails in our country need to comply with the Constitution and need to comply with federal law. I'm hopeful at the end of the day that Fulton County can put in place the reforms, measures, and best practices necessary so that it might stand as a model for other institutions across the country.
There's no fines or anything, they weren't able to comply or anything like that?
This is a civil investigation, and the remedial measures set forth in our report include policy changes, training, staffing measures, and other action steps necessary to cure the violations. Thank you.
And there it is, y'all. And thank you to Amy for dropping the email. And Kat Knott Williams also says another way to advocate is to raise awareness of programs that help with bond funding. The Bail Project has an office in Fulton County. Yeah, also, and it looked like I found an article from the Bail Project saying that they might have to cease their operations in Atlanta due to regressive Georgia law. So it's worse than we thought. And there's still so many things that we could get into. I want to read this article for y'all, but I'll probably just drop the link to it so that way y'all can go check out the bail project here in Atlanta. It's looking like though that they may be back at some point, so I can't imagine this would be something that would be permanent. But yeah, this just recently happened a few months ago, and I haven't read this article yet, but I'll get into it here in a second. Let me see what y'all are saying. And thank you, Kat, for dropping that information. She says, oh, okay, they came back in July. There's a block on that bill for now. And she says, but the bill wants to restrict nonprofits from helping more than 3 individuals a year. What? Yeah, absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Thanks for stopping by, Kat. I appreciate it. And y'all make sure you go support Kat Not Williams as well. Where is his email? There we go. And if y'all want to email the sheriff, because he is responsible for everything that's going on, or he oversees everything that's going on in Rice Street, it's going to be crazy. Amy says, write your Georgia state representative and tell them that you don't want people dying by having their blood drained by bed bugs in Fulton County or being starved to death. We're going to get into this Lesean Thompson article. We haven't talked about it yet on this channel, but as I mentioned, this was a huge story and continues to be a huge story here in the Atlanta area. But yeah, Cat Not Williams says wild, right? Why 3? Yeah, it's insane. Grateful says he did a presser also after this. He being this gentleman. Well, let me see if I can. I'll see if I can find it. If I can find the press that he did, the press coverage that he did. Thank you for that. Grateful 1509. I want to shout out a couple super chats, and then we've got to get into this Lesean Thompson. I wasn't actually going to cover this today, but while we're on it, we might as well shed a light on this, and then we'll probably look at Detective Big Burritos, the rest of her testimony from yesterday. Shout out to Amy, dropped 5 memberships. If you got a membership from Amy, make sure you say thank you for the love. I appreciate you, Amy. Y'all know, you see her in the chat. She is always in here putting in work, showing support, and does so many things for this community. So thank you so much for everything, Amy. I appreciate you. Amber Rain is in here. Shout out to my favorite, dropping the 5 bomb. Says keep it up. Thank you, Amber. I hope you have a great day. Appreciate you stopping by. Cat Not Williams. Oh my gosh, just gifted 10 memberships. Sheesh. Shout out to Cat Not Williams. Make sure if you got a membership from Cat Not Williams, say thank you. I'm gonna call y'all out too. Sweetscapes, I see you. Amber, not Amber Rain. It's a different Amber. Say thank you. Tia, Willis, Happy Annie. Come on, y'all. Show Cat Not Williams some love. And make sure y'all go subscribe to her channel. Make sure you like and watch every single video she has over there. Absolutely amazing content creator. She's been covering a lot. You hear she's very knowledgeable about what's going on when it comes to injustices in the legal system, not only here in Atlanta, but throughout the US. So make sure you go watch and check out her content. She goes live and has been covering this YSL trial as well. And I know most of y'all who are in here have heard or seen Cat Not Williams. So go subscribe to her channel and show her some love. Shout out to Cat Not Williams for the 10 memberships. Appreciate you. She said, thanks for raising awareness. Yeah, thank you for helping, Kat, because I know you covered this as well. Oh God, I don't want to hear from Grateful 8 said the sheriff, he had a press conference after this. All right, we got to play it now. Let me see if I can find it. Amy's so good. She's probably going to find it before I do. Let me see. Share. Riff. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, here we go. All right, so it looks like we're going to spend some time today cooking Rice Street. Shout out to my guy, right? He said, you got to hear both sides.
Stop the cap.
Rice Street, if you don't get out of here, man. All right, here we go. I found it from Fox 5 Atlanta. I'm sure he's going to act like the victim. We don't have funding. we can't pay people. You know, I'm doing my best. Which some of that might be true, but hey, Labat, you gotta step up to the plate, just like my guy Rice Street. Take accountability. Yeah, I did not think this was the way this live stream was gonna go today. So let me see. Looks like Sheriff Labat is gonna clap back at the Department of Justice. Yikes. Shout out to, we'll get it here in a second. Shout out to Mr. Boombastic says they made this a civil investigation where there has been obvious criminal issues exposed, excessive use of force. They followed through with criminal arrest on officers and staff. Things will be corrected. Yeah, but they need to shut this down. And I hate that when asked about whether they were going to shut this down or not, she said, hey, you know, we're going to do our best. And I think all of these problems can be fixed. All right, come. Yeah, Amy said, yes, I had that video already. I know you did, Amy. Even just look at this screenshot, which we're going to go through this article here. Look at this screenshot from inside Rice Street. Look at this. Look at this, y'all. What is this something that can be salvaged? Like you've got ish and stuff all over the place. It's nasty.
These niggas lacking.
So, all right, let's go ahead and get into it and see what this man has to say. I'm going to try and keep it together, y'all. Rice Street said, listen to the experts. Rice Street, get out of here, man. Let's skip ahead. And thank you to Grateful 1509 for letting me know about this, because I had no idea this happened. Here we go. And shout out to Fox 5 for putting us on game. We can't hear you. Oh yeah, Grateful 1509 says, to me it was gaslighting at its finest. He did the same thing in his last press conference, and we covered it here too. I'm trying to find the video I made about it. So y'all know I'll be dropping 50-11 videos, but I'll find it. Y'all are laughing about
These niggas lacking.
Oh yeah, we got her. I'm never letting Judge Whitaker live that down. Michi says, ClassE, it shouldn't be salvaged. I mean, if inmates can literally wander about as they please, how quickly can that be fixed? It can't. And then we heard how easy it was for them to even avoid staying in their cells. Oh, 11 Alive has it too. Fulton County DA response. I'm going to go to 11 Alive because I don't know what Fox 5 has got going on. Here we go. Looks like they have a better view anyway.
All right, first of all, good evening. Good afternoon. Want to thank Chairman Pitts and his team with respect to multiple conversations we've had about what certainly moving forward after the DOJ. And we've been anticipating the DOJ report, and we are certainly in a space now that we are happy that it has come out. It has right now in it 109 different remedial opportunities for us as we continue. I do want to point out that if you look at it in its depth, it is a point in time study, if you will, and a lot of the things we have worked with the board over the past few months to accomplish, and wanted to highlight some of those. We look at when I took office as sheriff, we had
I lied, y'all. No, zero responsibility. already. We don't care about what you've done up to this point. We don't care if Rice Street was the worst prison in the United States and it got to the point that it's out now. We do not care about that. All we care about is that last year, there was a man by the name of Lesean Thompson that died in Rice Street. And you need to take responsibility for that. We don't want to hear about, since I've been in office, things have been really hard, and I've tried my best. I apologize, y'all. I said I wasn't going to stop it. I lied. We've been working through some things and struggling. I had a lot I was focusing on. No, this is your direct overseeing responsibility. Come on, man.
We look at when I took office as sheriff, we had a population of 3,700 individuals.
Oh my God.
600 of them sleeping on the floor. We work with the Board of Commissioners to develop an outsourcing plan. Right now, the population has decreased, ultimately because we have had and formed an inmate advocacy unit, a unit that has gone through and combed through over 30,000 records, worked with the DA's office, worked with the public defender's office, worked with the judges on consent decrees, and released nearly 1,400 people that were considered nonviolent. We also take a look at our accreditation efforts, both with respect to NCCHC, the health accreditation, which we have since attained. We look at some of our daily accomplishments. We have, much as the
We don't care.
DOJ report suggests, we have ongoing conversations daily with our command staff in terms of what it looks like for us to continue to move forward after each incident, use of force.
Can y'all imagine being the Thompson family and hearing this?
These niggas lacking.
Like, hey, after somebody dies, we do our best. We make sure we do a thorough investigation and we see what happened. And yeah, we know every day last year, except for Sunday, somebody's gotten stabbed, but we take each incident seriously and we're doing our best work, including not paying the company that was running Fulton County Jail, aka Rice Street. We do our best job here.
Reporting, we have revamped that process, and we've revamped some training as we have gone along over the last few months. So we're committed.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let it play. Over the last few months, Jesus, the Department of Justice just said there is currently nothing that says in their policy that they shouldn't be using this type of force that goes against your constitutional rights. Yeah, we made some improvements.
Reporting, we have revamped that process, and we've revamped some training as we have gone along over the last few months. So we're committed to continue to work with the Bureau of Justice Assistance Program, as well as the National Institute of Corrections when it comes to what going through some of these remedial efforts look like. And I would suggest to you, certainly with the board's collaboration, we have been able to do some things both structurally to the building that ultimately the chairman will cover, as well as programmatically in terms of what it looks like for us to hire, retain, and really focus on a better sheriff's office. So I'll turn the mic over to the chairman, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Why are we hearing from the chairman?
Everyone. I concur with the sheriff. We've come a long way.
I told you, Kat.
Really short.
And I hadn't seen this, but I said the same thing, Kat. I said the same thing. You're gonna be like, oh, we don't have enough money. I just don't know what to do. Yeah, we couldn't pay the security team to stay in Rice Street, but I'm gonna hire more employees for Fulton County to actually go into Rice Street wants the Why are we hearing from the chairman? Like, who is this hype man? I don't care what the chairman has to say. Can we get this done, please?
Thank you, Sheriff.
Shut it down.
And good afternoon, everyone.
God, Lee.
I concur with the sheriff. We've come a long ways in really a short period of time, and we have a few steps yet to go. But I'm encouraged about where we are. I was eagerly, and we as a board, eagerly awaiting the report from the Department of Justice, which we received. I've not had a chance to read
He's
it
encouraged,
in its
guys.
entirety yet, but we'll do so. But what I understand, it's pretty comprehensive. But we've made a lot of changes and adjustments so far, although I will admit that we have things that we need to accomplish going forward, working with the sheriff. So I think that today is a time of us looking forward and not backwards. How do we accomplish some of the things that have been that were pointed out in the study? But I'm in the process now reviewing the detailed report that was issued, and we look forward to working with the Department of Justice as we move forward, but more importantly, working with our sheriff to make sure that
he does his job.
By what's in the report and anything that may be forthcoming. We share the concerns that were outlined, and we're going to be working jointly, cooperatively to address them. We've already begun working on several things, including our jail blitz plan, which is in force now, making considerable progress there, where we've identified issues in 9 of our 11 housing units, and they should be 9 of 11 rather should be finished and completed by the end of the year. The board has also approved spending up to about $300 million to fully address the facility needs. And our meeting on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, the hope is to name a program or project manager for the team to assess all of the needs that they can identify. So I'm excited about where.
What a joke.
These niggas lacking.
They don't care, man. They don't care. They do not care. You don't understand, and I know all 1,300 of y'all that are in here are very smart, and I know you understand what he said. This man just said, hey, we had $300 million sitting around, and the board just decided, oh, yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and use this $300 million for bettering Rice Street. That's great, right? Yeah, shout out to them. Round of applause. But now he's saying, my hope is that we'll be able to get somebody in place to be able to assess and analyze all the issues that are happening in Rice Street. I said this before we started. I knew I hadn't seen this yet. I knew they were going to start complaining about money and funding. You're telling me that all it took was a board decision to just say, yeah, let's take $300 million and invest it into Rice Street. Please. I'm not going to say I can't believe it.
We've identified issues in 9 of our 11 housing units, and they should be 9 of 11 rather should be finished and completed by the end of the year. The board has also approved spending up to about $300 million to fully address the facility needs. And our meeting on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, the hope is to name a program or project manager for the team to assess all of the needs that they can identify. So I'm excited about where we are. And
he's excited, guys.
That we're headed in the right direction. I've said all along that we will have to comply with whatever the Justice Department recommends, and that's what we're in the process of doing now. So thank you all for being with us.
Man, shut this down. This pisses me off. I'll do it. I'll be in charge. I'll be the project manager for this. I have zero experience in the project management of a prison, but I'm pretty sure I could take a look at this picture and say, hey guys, we might want to have more everything. They don't have a project manager yet. we're going to have a meeting about finding a project manager. Good God.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sheriff. We can take a few questions at this time.
Hi there, Eric Perry with Fox 5. You guys seem positive and optimistic, but to be honest, the tone this morning was really damning from the Department of Justice.
As
How
it should be.
serious is this, and were you guys already making plans and making changes before now, or
If he
because
says
earlier
yes, I
this morning it
swear.
seems like no changes have been made?
Well, I view that a little differently. If you look at what was said this morning, the tone and tenor was, none of this is new. This is decade-old problems, some that predate certainly the chairman and I relationship. But ultimately, it also said, and it was also pointed out very, very poignantly, these are fixable opportunities. And so that's what our plan is as we get ready to move forward, is to be able to fix each one of these opportunities and move forward.
Sheriff, the DOJ said that some of the violence stems from the fact that, or stems from a lack of an adequate classification system that results in really violent inmates being housed with more vulnerable inmates. Do you have any response to that, and is that something you're trying to address?
So we are addressing that. I have said quite loudly that we will not be able to just simply throw staffing at this. We're going to have to embrace technology, and we're working with our IT department to do just that. There are classification systems that are a little more robust, and we are presenting those as we get ready to move toward the new budget cycle as well.
I just interviewed Andrea Young with
Rice Street, get outta here.
ACLU, and she believes that a big thing that could help with this, I know y'all have talked about, you know, there's just not enough space for all of the inmates, and a big issue she saw was the fact that a lot of people in there can't afford to bond out, and a lot of people in there might not necessarily be in there because of a concern of violence or a concern of being a danger to society. Do y'all feel that maybe there is a systematic change that needs to be in place for the people who do end up in the jail to begin with? So the filtering system of who is jailed in the Fulton County Jail versus, you know, just everyone in jail, and changing how the jail functions.
Well, we don't have the luxury of predicting who is brought to the facility. You look at what some of the conversations
yes,
had
you
around
do.
misdemeanor versus felonies, et cetera. And so we have less than 200 felons there, and ultimately most of those are domestic violence related. And so we don't have the luxury of saying who comes and goes, but what we do with it through the inmate advocacy unit is really pull. I thought I said less than 200 misdemeanors. All right, I want to make sure I'm clear. So they're less than 200 misdemeanors. The rest are felons. But those are domestic violence related. And so to that extent, we work with the DA's office, we work with the public defender's office to see whom we can really
Y'all give me 1 second.
get out of jail if it is applicable. But going through, and I mentioned our inmate advocacy unit, there are times when we find somebody that has a bond that has dwindled down to less than $1,000, $500, $10, or whatever it may look like, and then we get them out of jail. But we can't just let them go. We try and connect them with their families. And that's why it's important to have such programs. And we've invited the ACLU and a number of different community-based organizations in to really help not only see that, but to see what they have to offer as well.
Last question.
Is there still a push from the sheriff to build a new jail? A lot of the things inside of that report was for structural. They cited some of the inmates going between the walls and darkened alleyways and things like that. Is there still a push? Are you still pushing for a new jail?
So it's a great question. And one thing that we have to recognize is that we are going to work with the facility we have. The Board of Commissioners has approved, as you heard Chairman say, up to $300 million in renovations. You have to understand that facility was built to warehouse people. And the first thing we have to do is change the culture of how we get people processed through courts, et cetera, because can you imagine if we had 1,000 less people even than we had today? And so ultimately, we have to make sure we focus on adjudication. Specifically, we have to have a replacement facility at some point in the future. And that is at the will of the board and the appetite there. But ultimately, a $300 million renovation is a huge step forward.
Yeah, $300 million. Let me run this back. I want to hear this last 2 minutes. Y'all hold on a second. And I just received something crazy from Amy. Shout out to Amy for the breaking news. What did Amy just say to me? What did Amy say in the chat? She said, I cannot unsee what I've just seen. This is insane. Where did her comment go? She said, I can't unread and unsee what I just saw. Amy, I'm going to call you real quick. Hold on a second. Rice Street said, I got to be honest. You can't put lipstick on the pig. We love you, Rice Street. But man, this is a mess. All right. So we have it here. I guess this is turning into, I said it was going to be a Rice Street roast today, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. We have the U.S. Department of Justice. Their investigation of Fulton County, y'all. And shout out to Amy for sending this to me. This is absolutely insane. So I'm going to call her real quick. And Amy, if you could do me a favor and just share everything that you sent me in your email and then everything you're seeing in this report, and we'll probably go through it. But I'm going to call her. Let me rewind the last 2 minutes of this, Amy, and I'm going to call you real quick. Hold on. This is getting crazy. I didn't think we were going to get this deep into Rice Street.
Really get out of jail if it is applicable. But going through, and I mentioned our inmate advocacy unit, there are times when we find somebody that has a bond that has dwindled down to less than $1,000, $500, $10, or whatever it may look like, and then we get them out of jail. But we can't just let them go. We try and connect them with their families. And that's why it's important to have such programs. And we've invited the ACLU and a number of different community-based organizations in to really help not only see that, but to see what they have to offer as well.
Last question.
Is there still a push from the sheriff to build a new jail? A lot of the things inside of that report was for structural. They cited some of the inmates going between the walls and darkened alleyways and things like that. Is there still a push? Are you still pushing for a new jail?
So it's a great question. And one thing that we have to recognize
Are you pushing for a new jail?
We are going to work with the facility we have. The Board of Commissioners has approved, as you heard Chairman say, up to $300 million in renovations. You have to understand that facility was built to warehouse people. And the first thing we have to do is change the culture of how we get people processed through courts, et cetera. Because can you imagine if we had 1,000 less people?
That's not the first thing you do. If the showers and the toilets don't work and there's people sleeping on the floors and you have a lice and bed bug issue, your problem isn't processing. Can I be the project manager? Hey, listen, y'all just give me, I'm not even going to be greedy. Just give me, I don't know, how much do we want, y'all? Give me 5 million of that 300 million, y'all. Y'all have just got approved from the board, and we'll fix this in 6 months. In the meantime, just get everybody moved, get them evaluated, mental health evaluations, and we'll be fine. We'll get this fixed. We'll be done. It's not that complicated, sir. Come on, Sheriff. They need a project manager back because I don't know what the sheriff is talking about.
To warehouse people. And the first thing we have to do is change the culture of how we get people processed through courts, et cetera. Because can you imagine if we had 1,000 less people even than we had today? And so ultimately, we have to make sure we
It's not
focus
the
on
problem.
adjudication. Specifically, we have to have a replacement facility at some point in the future. And that is
Not to mention that, but he's seriously taking shots at Fannie there. I don't know if y'all heard that, but there's been a lot of criticism of the way Fannie's handling and how she's using even Rico, as we well know. And he's saying, oh, well, we just got to do better with the system and not get as many people in here. What do you mean? When they get there, you have one person there that can't use the shower. That's a problem. What is this guy saying? Get him out of here.
Appetite there, but ultimately, a $300 million renovation is a huge step forward.
All right, let me call Amy real quick. Jeez, man, this is insane. And I need to call Wright Street too. Put Wright Street up here. You got some explaining to do. Let me know if y'all can hear that. You should be able to hear.
Good morning.
There she is. We have the lovely, the amazing, the awesome Amy is in the building. Oh man, Amy, I did not. Thank you for sending that email and thank you for sending over the report. I didn't read everything you said in the email, but I'm going to give you the floor and just let you talk about what you've seen in this report, and then we'll go through it. So go ahead. Floor is yours.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, good morning to the chat. But I wanted to just touch base with if this YSL trial had not brought light or shed light onto this, I mean, how many more? I think of how many more years this would have just been overlooked. That's like really shocking to me that I was going back and doing research earlier, and there was reports made 2 years ago about some horrific things that were going down. And then even last year, an inmate got out and had basically filed a bunch of reports against, Fulton County. And it's just the horrible things that she went through. And I was just going on and on. So I started looking at this report that he was speaking on, and I couldn't believe that just the things we knew about the not working water in the showers, but it goes so much deeper. It's so much more unsafe than what we realized. And so in this report, I was reading that the personal suffering has made it so unsafe because they said that it's like a gladiator academy where teenage prisoners are regularly sodomized and forced to do and commit criminal acts against each other's, and they can't even return to society. Rapes happen. Obviously, the stabbings, we heard that already, have happened. Shakedowns that go unreported and uninvestigated. And when they are reported, it's in part because of jail staff. It's too often complicit. So there's way too many things to even list. But the entire warrant of the back tunnels, that was the first I've ever heard of that, to be honest. I don't know if you heard it, but
no, I haven't seen that
we were
yet.
hearing through some of the guys, like there's not enough food, the bed bugs. We heard, of course, like the feces on the wall. We heard all those things, but it's so much worse. So whether you live in Atlanta or not, I think that just getting apprised of the situation and just realizing just how much these people are suffering, and regardless of the reason why they're in there, it's just inhumane, and it's we definitely need to shed more light on it. Anyways, they said that there was that the prisoners have dug into walls so bad that the staff reports of the tunnels they don't even get investigated anymore. They just let them do it. They don't even
Oh my God.
check or try to figure it out. They just let them do that. And the most important thing for the classification system is non-existent. And they've assumed that the jail staff understood how to keep gangs separated in the jail, so at very least, but the staff apparently isn't keeping a reasonable record about who belongs to what set and which sets are beefing. This is the most, rock basic technology there is, because that's why there's so many stabbings. That's why rape is happening. This is why the younger ones are getting sodomized and raped in there, is because there's absolutely no one doing anything about it. The DOJ should have released this report 6 months ago, as it stands. And one of the two things is true: either Sheriff Patrick Labat cannot administer this jail in a way that doesn't result in unbelievable violations of basic human rights or civil rights, then he should resign. No one can administer, this jail in its current condition, and it should be closed immediately, in my opinion, and that these inmates should be transferred to another place. Clearly, I don't see how anyone could sit right with, and even like his press conference, I don't see how he thinks that this is just about a money thing. Just the basic human decency of, people's lives where, our taxpayer money, is supposed to be being used for all these things, and yet look at the conditions. I don't know. I just can't believe that people are not asking for his resignation, because it is horrible, the crimes. And obviously the report, you can just read the headlinings, the words that they tried to say, but it's wild.
They've got killings, stabbings, and assaults are common in the jail. The jail fails to protect vulnerable populations from violence. The jail leaves incarcerated people unprotected from sexual violence. Violence in the jails causes long-lasting trauma. Jail does not house people appropriately to reduce the risk of violence. The jail's deficient classification system and housing plan increases, I think they meant to put, the risk of violence. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on. Poor door security. People move through the walls of the jail to attack others. Man, we're going to have to do a whole show about this. I mean, this is wild.
I thought it was interesting that what happened in August of 2023, there was records show that there was a 6-day period in August of 2023 that reflects that the main jail was below the minimum level of staff on all floors for 4 out of 6-day shifts. Both homicides that happened in August of 2023, which we were referring to earlier in the show, occurred in the same unit during this period, with only 2 staff were assigned to that unit. Staffing levels overnight were even worse. The jail was below minimum level on and off staff for housing the floors of the main jail for each of the night shifts in the period that happened. So for me, it's like, what in the world is going on with the staffing levels to there being no staff on certain floors, and a single officer is assigned to supervise 150 to 250 people alone. How is that when you have beefing, rival gangs, and they're cooped up like that? How is one person supposed to maintain any type of civil of anything with one person against that many people?
Yeah, not to mention you heard the guy that was in the video from Rice Street. Once he pulled out his taser, he couldn't even run 100 yards without being out of breath. So if that's the kind of folks they got in there, I can't imagine 2 people managing an entire unit. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's way worse than what I thought it was, and it's heartbreaking. And I would have never realized how I knew conditions at times were run down and not great, just because of being in criminal justice, before. But I never realized how bad this was, especially on Rice Street. And Rice Street has some serious explaining to do.
Yeah, Rice Street, where you at in the chat? You got to come to the front of the congregation, Rice Street. He's in there making excuses saying, hey, second chances. I believe in second chances. Not this time. They need to shut it down. I mean, so what do you think should happen moving forward? I mean, other than Labat resigning, you think they should shut it down or try and salvage what's left?
I think that the traumatic events for a lot of these inmates and for the staff and just for what's going on in these conditions, like how extreme the lice and the bed bugs are, everything, like, knock it down, build a different one. I mean, I just don't see, it's so bad, and all of the structure and just everything that's been done, I just don't really see how, I mean, they wouldn't have to go in and do some serious reconstruction and everything, but to me, it's even They just need an overhaul. Like you can give someone else a new building, and if they don't have the processes and the right people and the right person in charge, I mean, is the same thing going to happen? Like, I don't believe that it's just because the building is falling apart. That could be a huge part of it, but this also has to do with the leadership at the top. And I think, Labat should definitely resign, and they should put somebody else that, is going to really go to fight and go to war to help these inmates, guilty or not. Like, it's inhumane. Like, there was one report I was reading that said that the conditions were so bad that this jail was literally worse than a jail in a third world country. Like,
yeah. Looks like it.
That's pretty bad. And there's no mechanism that can be built to make change without understanding the basis for that change. And this document and this report is fundamental in that basis. But the document is what, pierced sovereign immunity for the county, but the county is going to be sued from here to hell and back with this document, because this document explains why they should be sued to hell and back, basically, because there was other cases and other inmates that have gotten out that have, that are suing or that have made complaints, and they haven't done anything about it. And it's only really been, as far as my understanding, when this whole YSL and all the guys saying how bad it is, and really Woody, to be honest, hearing him explain how bad the conditions are was really what brought my attention to it more. And then obviously, as things came out, but now, before, I was just like, when Steele was kind of disappointed when Doug took his plea, I thought to myself, man, I wish you could have just waited 3 more months. But now I realize why no one would want to spend a minute in there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So,
I want to go through and read and actually just skip to their conclusion before we go through everything. I think we've got some time today, so I might actually go through this after we talk about Lesean's entire situation there. But I want to read. Did you read the conclusion of this yet?
I just read a little bit of it. I was mainly focused on just the logistics of the reports of actually what happened to these people and stuff. But I didn't read through all the conclusion. But I did watch the videos.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, it's literally 3 paragraphs. I'm going to read it and see what you think, and then I won't hold you hostage anymore. It says conclusion. Let me make sure y'all can see this. In summary, our investigation found reasonable cause to believe that Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office violate the constitutional and statutory rights of people confined at the Fulton County Jail by, with deliberate indifference to the risk of harms, fails to protect incarcerated people from violence, engaging in a pattern or practice of excessive force, failing to provide humane living conditions, failing to provide adequate medical and mental health care, confining incarcerated people in dangerous, restrictive housing conditions without due process in a discriminatory manner, and failing to provide special education services to qualified 17-year-olds, which is interesting, them talking about the due process and them bringing that up as well. We are obligated to advise you that 49 days after the issuance of this letter, the Attorney General may initiate a lawsuit pursuant to CRIPA, or is it CRIPA? I don't know if they call it that, or correct deficiencies identified in this findings report if state officials have not satisfactorily addressed our concerns. Right. The Attorney General may also move to intervene in related private suits 15 days after the issuance of this report, which you mentioned. You said that a lot of lawsuits are going to come out of this report being published, which makes sense because now they say, hey, what we've been saying and what the issues we've had, the Department of Justice just backed this up. And lastly, it says the findings report is a public document. It will be posted on the Civil Rights Division website. We look forward to working cooperatively to ensure that these violations are remedied. All right. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's pretty much the same of what we heard. We already heard.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same what we heard. But I would say that the ramifications of probably why they didn't come out with this sooner was obviously because one, I mean, they're going to be in a lot of hot water and probably will continue to be. But the Fulton County Commission, to me, won't act because they're going to be afraid of the financial consequences, I think, to an extent. But I really, truly believe also that, like, this is going to come down to Kemp. I think he's going to have to really step in here.
Yeah.
And just really do some overhaul, because the fact that this has gotten that bad, it's like we as, living in Fulton County and taxpayers and really anywhere, because this is rampant. Like, these things happen in prisons and in jails all across the United States. It just happens that the light's being shed on this one because it's super bad and people are saying it's really, really, really bad. It's just, where is the accountability to all of these people that we vote into office and our tax money not being spent in the correct way? We're like, we the people, like, call your senators, call the governor's office, call your local sheriff's department, send emails, because really the only change that's going to happen and push them and hold them accountable is if we, you, me, and everyone else is actually being active and doing something about it. Otherwise, I think that if it just, people let it die and just go away, like, they just think, we'll do minimum stuff here and there, but ultimately it's been going on for years and years and years. It doesn't get that bad overnight, over a week, over a month. This is years upon years. I was reading violations and complaints that have come in over the past 3 or 4 years from people. One inmate saying that she literally woke up with hundreds of bed bugs on her. And like, can you imagine, like, you're kind of already sleeping with one eye open, not getting rest because you don't know what kind of people what kind of people you're in there with, but could you imagine, like, you're not getting rest anyways, and then having to worry about being, your blood sucked by a bunch of bed bugs? That's horrible. And obviously disgusting. It's that bad if a couple people have died because of it, it's obviously pretty bad. So it's a whole mess. And I sure hope that Sheriff Labatt resigns. I personally think that that's the right thing for him to do, and they should get somebody that's in there that will really have some change, because I was not impressed with his press conference. That's just me personally.
Yeah, and this is the second time. We've heard press conferences from him before. No surprise. We already saw how this was going to go. Continued constant victim of his own situation. So what are we going to do? I don't know.
Right.
All right, there she is.
Well, that is my 2 cents.
That has been your Amy analysis. Shout out to the awesome, amazing Amy. I appreciate you. Thank you for sending this in as well, because I would have never seen this. You do so much, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. You keep being amazing as well.
All right, I will. I'm trying. All right, y'all spam Amy in the chat. Bye, Amy.
Bye.
Y'all spam Amy in the chat. Tell her thank you for that insight and that breaking news. This is crazy. We gotta go through this. Let me see. I want to go through this right now. It's 100 pages, but there's so much in here that is absolutely insane. I mean, they've got pictures of the conditions. They've got shanks, all different types of weapons. Oh gosh, burn holes in the cell windows. Ooh. Yeah, we love Amy over here. Shout out to Amy. I mean, look at all this. It just goes on and on. Toilet and sink. Drain inside a padded cell. My God. Exposed wires. This is crazy. And they talk about misconduct. Yeah, we're going to have to go through that. I don't know if we'll go through the full thing today, but I do want to tell and talk about this story of Lesean Thompson. Again, I had no idea we were going to be doing this today, but this is officially the roast of Rice Street today. And thank you again to Amy for sending that in. Yeah, LTO says they need a team, not an individual. I want to see what some of y'all are saying too. Stephen G said Rice Street thugs served 2 years as an innocent man. Yeah, and that's what I mentioned to Rice Street. I get and I agree. Y'all know I am really heavy on the accountability. So Rice Street made a great point and said, yes, Rice Street needs to be cleaned up, but to be honest, you don't just end up in Rice Street, don't do the crime. That's a fact. But I mentioned that there are innocent people, and we know that have been held in Rice Street and in prison in general. I mean, I just saw the other day, there was a guy when he was a teenager accused of a certain type of assault, was in prison for 60 years and then got released after the person who accused him of that just came out and said, yeah, I lied. Happens every single day. So if there's one person that was in there for 2 minutes and had to deal with these type of situation, I think that should be even more so a reason for us to push for this to be taken care of. But I get your accountability point, Rice Street. But Amy said, Rice Street, explain yourself. Oh my gosh. John says, and I bet when Trump had to go, they had that check-in area spit polish. Yeah, I wonder if the Department of Justice is here because, you know, we know that Trump is going to be back in office soon. Is this his first move to take some shots at Fannie? I don't know.
These niggas lacking.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get into this Lesean Thompson article. And thank you to everybody who liked the video. If y'all could, make sure you like the video. It takes 2 seconds and it really does help the channel continue to grow. And Rice Street says, sounds like bad lawyers. Oh my God. Man, that's crazy. Shout out to Rice Street. All right, here we go. Lesean Thompson. The family releases independent autopsy of the Fulton County Jail inmate consumed by bed bugs. Again, this happened summer of last year. This poor man got into Rice Street and within a short period of time was just unfortunately passed away because of the conditions inside Rice Street prison. It was a huge story throughout Atlanta and actually traveled further on throughout the United States. Here's a video. I'm going to play a couple of these videos and shout out to Fox 5 News for this article as well. I'll check this out.
Jonathan, thanks so much. New details now in the controversial death of an inmate at the Fulton County Jail. An independent autopsy found Lesean Thompson died of fatal cardiac arrhythmia after months of neglect while incarcerated. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes is live at the Fulton County Jail with more. And Deidre, Thompson's family and their attorneys insist jail staff should face criminal charges.
Attorneys for Thompson's family calling the Fulton County Jail a torture chamber. They say autopsy findings prove that jail staffers who were supposed to be caring for Thompson are guilty of willful neglect, and they do want them criminally charged.
We now know what caused Lesean Thompson to die, and it was criminal negligence.
Attorneys for Lesean Thompson's family say the independent autopsy confirmed that he was, in their words, neglected to death.
It confirms that this is one of the most deplorable in-custody deaths in the history of America.
The 35-year-old was schizophrenic and was being held in the jail's psychiatric wing. He died in September of 2022, 3 months after being arrested on a misdemeanor battery charge in Atlanta. Thompson's body was discovered in a filthy jail cell covered in bed bugs and other insects.
He was thrown in that cell in the mental health ward and left there to die.
The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office listed Thompson's cause of death as undetermined, but Dr. Randy
And just to let y'all know how easy it is to get charged with misdemeanor battery, let's, for example, during COVID, you know how people were freaking out and they had masks on, everybody's walking around 6 feet, don't get close to me. And this doesn't even have to do with COVID specifically. You can sneeze or spit on someone and be charged with a misdemeanor battery. Now, again, Rice Street said it. Maybe it comes to a bad lawyer, but not everybody has a good lawyer. That is crazy to think that this man was put in Rice Street for a few months on a misdemeanor battery. We don't know what it was. It could have been something simple. It could have knocked somebody over. Wild.
In the history of America.
The 35-year-old was schizophrenic and was being held in the jail's psychiatric wing. He died in September of 2022, 3 months after being arrested on a misdemeanor battery charge in Atlanta. Thompson's body was discovered in a filthy jail cell covered in bed bugs and other insects.
He was thrown in that cell in the mental health ward and left there to die.
The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office listed Thompson's cause of death as undetermined, but Dr. Randy Mitchell, head of forensic pathology at Howard University, found Thompson died of complications due to severe neglect, which led to fatal cardiac arrhythmia.
The major contributing cause, untreated, decompensated schizophrenia, dehydration, malnutrition, severe body insect infestation.
Severe.
And the manner of death is homicide.
Attorneys say Thompson was unable to care for himself due to his diminished mental state and allege he went without food, liquids, and medication. Thompson's family is struggling to come to grips with the horrific circumstances surrounding his death.
It's enough that the bed bugs and lice sat there and ate my brother to death, but the neglect hurts me the most. That in 2023, that we'll see people leave people, let them torture, let them rot in the cell. That hurts me the most.
It's sad, man.
And the family and attorneys also today calling for the first time for a meeting with Governor Kemp. They do say that they'd like to talk to the governor about more that can possibly be done when it comes to mental illness and funding here in the state of Georgia. They say mental illness should not be criminalized. That's the latest here at the Fulton County Jail. Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
We'll continue to follow this case closely. Deidre, thanks so much.
Yeah, and I'm so glad they're shedding a light on this finally. Let's check out this article. Fulton County, Georgia. The family of an inmate who died in bedbug-infested cell at the Fulton County Jail has released the results of their independent autopsy and renewed their calls for justice over his death. Lesean Thompson, 35, died in September 2022, 3 months after being booked into Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. His body was discovered in a cell on the psychiatric floor covered in bed bugs and insects after he was unable to pay his $2,500 bail for a misdemeanor charge. And again, Rice Street, I know Rice Street's joking, but man, I didn't think I was going to get $2,500 could have saved this man's life. These are real people, y'all. This is a misdemeanor. $2,500 could have saved this dude's life. Did he make decisions to get into and to be in Rice Street and to be charged with this misdemeanor? Yeah. Photos of the cell and Thompson's face and body covered in insects sparked outrage when they spread on social media in April after his family's local attorney, Michael Harper, released them to the media. The medical examiner's report lists Thompson's cause of death as undetermined, but notes a severe bedbug infestation. All right, I'm going to play this.
Person we hear from, Attorney Harper, will be
y'all give me a second.
The uncle of Lesean Thompson, Cairo Thompson, who wants to talk to you from his heart.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I just want to say 93 days. 93 days my nephew was in jail and didn't come out alive. His mother and his father is dead. So, as a parent,
His mother and father are dead.
Yes, sir.
So no, Slim
All I
Life.
can say is, when I heard the news was, who's responsible? Whose duty was it to make sure my nephew came out alive? Now, I can tell you now, I don't know a lot about anything.
Yes, sir.
But duty and responsibility in the military is what we do know. Somebody should be held accountable for what happened to my nephew. Now, they talk about that this thing is a big thing that's bigger than what we can ever imagine. And a lot of times, these big things don't hit you until it hit home. Right now, this is about closest home as it can hit for me. Okay? So it should be something done in his behalf for what they did or how they allowed it to happen.
Amen.
Now, what I want to say is, I don't know any of the people that was responsible, but I do know somebody had the duty to check in on him, feed him, and give him medication. So somebody should be held accountable.
Amen.
Now, what I really want to tell you is this. This is what I'm really talking about, preventing our extinction. Us as a people, as a black people, get neglected so much that it's just an everyday thing. Now, we went from the slave house to the White House, and we still have not gotten to the point that they treat us like we should be treated.
Amen.
When do it stop? When do it begin that we get treated just like everybody? We're not asking anybody to go around and kill nobody. We're not asking that. We're only asking that we get treated just as good as everybody else being.
Amen. Equality.
So we have to be here in the gap sometime when somebody else can't do it for themselves. So right now, I'm trying to stand in the gap for my nephew. Somebody needs to be held accountable. And it only takes to look at a book, because every person that was put in the office, they raised their right hand. They swore an oath to uphold their duties and responsibility. That's all I'm asking.
Amen.
And if the governor have to get involved, get involved. Because we're
Come on,
involved
Brian.
as close as we can get right now. And we're only asking everybody else. And if you look at this picture, you can see that you have every walk of life in this picture.
Okay.
In the United States, when you really want something to be done, you get everybody involved, every walk of life, to make a move.
Okay.
When you get everybody in, something is going to happen. I'm only asking you to go to your friends, family. You can go to the enemies if you want to. Tell them to get involved and try.
All right, so that was the end of that video. Absolutely insane and disturbing. And again, what I'm mentioning with the simple battery, you can be charged with simple battery for just spitting on someone. And with this man being schizophrenic, who knows? He could have spit on someone. He could have bumped into the wrong person. They said, police. This is in 2022. So again, things still were going crazy during COVID. I don't know what the details of his indictment were or his charge were, but something that simple and this man lost his life. It's crazy. The independent autopsy, which former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick helped paid for, confirmed much of the information in the medical examiner's report, but determined that the cause of Thompson's death was a cardiac arrhythmia due to criminal neglect. Criminal neglect. I'm going to keep saying that. So whoever's running this, I'm not going to say names because I'm in Fulton County. So, hey, listen, but Sheriff Labat, you got some explaining to do, man. This criminal neglect that's on you. It's on you, sir. Calling Thompson's death one of the most deplorable in custody deaths in the history of America, attorney Ben Crump said the family's commissioned autopsy determined that the Georgia man did not receive the treatment that he needed for his mental illness. Major contributing causes: untreated schizophrenia, dehydration, malnutrition, and extensive and severe body insect infestation, Crump described, which we heard in the video. Crump described the jail cell that Thompson was living in was like a torture chamber and said he lost nearly 30 pounds while he was staying in his cell. They said it was innumerable how many bed bug bites were on his body, he said, pointing to the autopsy report. Jail records reportedly reveal that the detention officers and medical staff at the jail noticed Thompson's deteriorating health but did nothing to help him, leading to his untimely death. For 93 days, there was a severe neglect for a mentally ill citizen, Crump said, and for about 40 of them, he didn't get any medical treatment at all. Crump described the jail as a cancer at the heart of Fulton County and demanded that the county take steps to make a radical change. Speaking at a press conference, NAACP President Attorney Gerald Griggs said that Thompson's family must be made whole and that someone must be charged with his death. It's time for Georgia to live up to its civil rights banner, starting with Lesean Thompson, Griggs said. Thompson's brother, Brady McCray, said the discovery of what his older brother went through was devastating for his family. It's not enough that the bedbugs and lice ate my brother to death, McCray said. It's the neglect that affects me the most. McCray said one of his brothers had a mental breakdown after seeing the conditions in which Thompson was living at the jail. And we heard that earlier. Following Thompson's death, Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labat accepted the resignations of 3 leaders at the jail. In a statement, the sheriff's office acknowledged the dilapidated and rapidly eroding conditions of the facility. The sheriff's office has also launched an internal investigation into Thompson's death and is reportedly addressing the sanitation and infestation problems at the facility. This article was written a year ago. So do y'all think they've actually addressed it? We understand and have said this publicly. This is absolutely unconscionable, point blank, Labat said at a press conference with the family. Let's check out this video. This is a tour.
The Fulton County Sheriff opened the doors to his jail today to show the extremely poor conditions that he's trying to fix.
As Fox 5's Morse Diggs reports, the spotlight has been on the jail since the death of a prisoner whose body was covered with bugs.
On top of the Fulton jail being way overcrowded, there are sections like this one here that they can't use or shouldn't use, and yet they had been used and part of the deplorable conditions. An inmate complains he needs to get out of the county jail to go see a judge. The sheriff, Pat Labat, allowed the public to see inside.
Every inmate, every detainee, and every cell.
Labat says he will look at every floor and talk to the inmates. Some continue to be curled up in doggy-style plastic trays due to overcrowding, and conditions made even worse because some of the jail sections cannot be used.
There's actually a leak behind the wall.
We saw cell doors off hinges, water from leaks, and other things we will not put on this broadcast. One inmate told Labat he's not been able to shower since Saturday.
I came up here Saturday, we have our intake. We took a shower. We were coming up for intake. That was it.
The highly publicized death of one inmate who sustained bug bites had been housed on a different medical floor. But that death put the Fulco jail and the sheriff in the spotlight.
We have been,
disgusting.
Needing this kind of help. We're in crisis.
Labat told me he believes the rank and file were afraid to go over their bosses' heads.
Look at that,
to let
y'all.
him know how bad things had gotten. He successfully persuaded Atlanta Mayor Dickens to allow him to use the downtown city jail for extra beds. But here's the problem. He has to move already short manpower from Rice Street to supervise transferred prisoners. Are you restricted somewhat because you're already on a manpower crunch here, so you can only do it in a phase?
So what we've done is, and yes, we're doing it in phases because of manpower.
And the sheriff wants to make it clear he's not asking for a fancy new jail. He calls what's needed a replacement jail. You've seen these conditions here today. It explains why. From Northwest Atlanta, I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
Shout out to Morris. And now it seems like they're singing a different tune. They're saying, well, you know, we could renovate things. We can fix it. The Department of Justice said these are fixable. What also did the Department of Justice say? Well, let's go back and look at it. I'm sure y'all remember, but I want to point this out. What did they say? Failing to provide adequate medical and mental health care, confining incarcerated people in dangerous, restrictive housing conditions without due process and in a discriminatory manner. It starts at the top. Family members say they want the county to launch an investigation, which thankfully we have. 2 investigations, one by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office and another by the Atlanta Police Department, are ongoing. Once completed, they'll be turned over to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Responding to Thompson's death, the county board has given the sheriff's office an additional $5.3 million to provide upgrades at the jail, including increased monitoring in the psychiatric and mental and medical units and more frequent high-level sanitations of those units. Where did this $5.3 million go? Because if that's the case, and this happened a year ago, why did the security team have to pull out? What did we do with this $5.3 million? Of my tax dollars, of Amy's tax dollars, of so many of y'all who are in Fulton County tax dollars. Where did that go? The family is planning to file a civil lawsuit over the death, as they should, and I assure you they will win. The Fulton County Jail has been plagued with numerous issues over the years. A deputy was recently fired for allegedly opening doors for an inmate. Officers are under suspicion for allowing inmates to order from restaurants. An inmate reportedly bit off part of a deputy's ear, and a female officer was caught on camera being intimate with an inmate. Well, we all know who that was. She's fired, by the way. In February, a detention officer was arrested after being accused of not protecting an inmate from physical harm and aiding and abetting during the commission of a crime. This is absolutely insane. And I knew things were bad. I know y'all knew things were bad, but we're going to continue to report on this. I'll be clipping this up and dropping the videos. Hopefully when y'all see them, make sure you share it with as many people as you can. Let them know what's going on so we can continue to keep this conversation going, because not only being here in Fulton County, but seeing how many people this is affecting and knowing that if it wasn't for this trial, a lot of us wouldn't even be talking about it. It's so important. And I appreciate y'all helping the conversation move forward as well. And shout out again to Amy for sending in, man, this report from the DOJ. We're going to get into it here in a second, but let me read a couple super chats and we'll keep it moving. This is wild. And man, I hope y'all got out there and voted too. Shout out to Stephen G. My guy says needs to be talked about. Drops the 3 bomb. I appreciate you. Also, shout out to Harp City with the 20 bomb. Says ClassE, you're so right. Exposing all things Fulton County. Your coverage of the YSL trial is so important. I appreciate you. What we are seeing is absolutely heartbreaking and criminal. Keep up the great work. Shout out to Amy. Keep singing. Yeah, shout out to the awesome, amazing Amy. Harp City also with the 10 bomb. Says, do you know if Amnesty International has ever gotten involved? They can help this in the spotlight. I think the YSL jury should take a tour of Rice Street insurance probably wouldn't cover. I don't know if they would be able to make it through there. Looking at the current conditions, you saw the officers in there. I know this was during COVID, but they had their faces covered. They didn't want to go in certain areas. Like, they were wild. Shout out to Mr. Tesla. He said he voted for Jesus because God knows we need it. Oh my gosh. Mr. Tesla, he paid for all this mess. Mr. Tesla, where did our 5.3 go, man? It's killing me. Jay Buckmaster says this isn't a money issue. This is a humanity issue, plain and simple. And I think Rice Street said it as well. There have been, where's your comment, Rice Street? Rice Street said, if this happened to an animal at the jail would have been shut down. Shaking my head. Yeah, Peter would be all over this. All over it. Grateful 1509 says, I voted for none your damn business, respectfully. Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to say. Let's see. What else are y'all saying in here? Shout out to Auto Doctor 911 says, every time someone is released or even when employees go home each night, the bugs will spread everywhere. It's a public health concern as well. That's a great point. That's a great point. JB Brown says, what is a major human rights violation? The building should be shut down. I mean, not to mention, this is criminal. The Department of Justice said this is a criminal issue. And even the medical examiner's report said what's happening in Rice Street is criminal. So, oh my gosh. That is wild. Is that an autopsy photo? Oh, I can't show this on the Jesus. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't show this on the live stream. I could probably show this one. Hold on. No, I'm not going to do it. Insane. Insane, man. And the fact that he got, again, I don't condone any crimes, and I don't think, obviously I think if you do a crime, you have to do the time. But this man being mentally ill and being held on the misdemeanor battery, I highly doubt it was that complicated. With him having schizophrenia, he could have, again, bumped into the wrong person, spit on somebody, sneezed on someone, yelled in somebody's face. Misdemeanor battery. $2,500 could have saved this man's life. That's I can't. Oh, man. Man. I mean, just imagine. We're all human. Imagine someone catches you on the wrong day. You're upset and they bump into you in the grocery store. You say, hey, watch out. And they say, you watch out. Push you back and forth. I mean, who knows? And then you get locked up and sent to Rice Street for even a night. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? That could happen to any of us. Amy says the family approved photographs attached to the release they show that the jail cell Mr. Thompson was housed in was not fit for a diseased animal. Yeah. He did not deserve this. Someone has to be held accountable for his death. The Fulton County Jail must be closed and replaced. That was his jail cell. Yeah, I saw that. Amy says, ClassE, their public just showed the room. Yeah, I think I showed the picture of the room already. Mr. Boombastic says Fulton County reaches $4 million settlement with the family of the inmate eaten alive by bed bugs. That's it? Oh, man. I'm gonna find it. All right, I found the article. So this article was written in May. 3 months later, they reached a settlement with the Thompson family for $3 million. This is the ad. Let me see. I can't do it, Amy. It's too much. I can't even handle it. Sheesh. Let me see if I can play this video. And thank you to Mr. Boombastic for this. Shout out to Harp City. Harp City in here with the 10 bomb says, Merrick Garland obsessed with Trump not correcting these problems. All jails and prisons need stringent oversight. Forget billions to Ukraine. Talk about it. Woody is right. Fulton County Jail is worse than death. $4 million settlement reached with the family of the man who died in the bedbug infested jail cell. All right, this is by ABC News. I don't want to read ABC News. I want to find something local. Let's try. Hold on a second. There we go. Let's see. We've been rocking with Fox 5 today, so let's see what Fox 5 says. Fulton County commissioners reached settlement in the death of inmate eaten alive by bed bugs. Here we go.
So you placed an order at Smart Press.
Of course, we've got an ad we've got to watch. Here we go.
He was found dead in his Fulton County jail cell covered in bugs. Today, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners approved a $4 million settlement with the family of Lesean Thompson. Thompson died in the Fulton County Jail 3 months after he was booked there. His family believes he was eaten alive by bed bugs. County officials confirmed the settlement was approved by a unanimous vote.
All right, so there it goes, and we'll just read this real quick. I think it says the same thing. And these are the pictures that Amy sent me about the room. It says Fulton County commissioners voted unanimously, as they should, to award the family of Lesean Thompson, a Fulton County inmate who was allegedly, not allegedly, we saw the report. He was eaten alive by bed bugs in his jail cell, $4 million in his death. 6 out of the 7 of the commissioners discussed the settlement behind closed doors, according to the chief of staff, Preston Thompson. I wonder if there's a relation. One commissioner was missing. The chief told Fox 5 the commissioners would not be giving any other details due to legal concerns. Attorney for the Thompson family issued the following statement on Thursday. While we are satisfied to reach settlements in these matters with Fulton County and unidentified entities for undisclosed amounts, we are nowhere near the end of this journey to full justice. We will continue to work with the Thompson family and the community that rallied behind him to ensure that a tragedy like this one never happens to another family or takes one more life. Lesean's life mattered, and together we can demand and motivate significant change in his name. That will be the legacy of Lesean Thompson. Man. Okay, so we have more information on his background, which we read, and it looks like they reached the settlement. So I'm glad they got the settlement there. It's not going to bring him back. And I don't know why it hits me so hard, but $2,500, then this man could have still been alive. Crazy to think about, y'all. Think about that for a second. $2,500 could have literally changed this man's life. Shout out to Madeira in the building, gifted 10 memberships. Thank you, Madeira. I saw it, Amy. I saw it. This is bad. If you got one of those 10 memberships from Madeira, make sure you say thank you. I appreciate you. Ashley is in here, says, zero amount of money would be worth my children's lives, not knowing how he suffered. All right, I'll show this one. I'm gonna show y'all this one video, this one picture. Hold on. I won't show the one with his face in it. Because this is crazy. And thank y'all for the support and all the super chats. Mr. Ross, I'll be reading that here shortly. I've gotta. Just so y'all can see what this man had to go through. It's crazy. Shout out to Reginald Russ in the building. Shout out to Reginald Russ. Dropped a 2 bomb. Does $5 million for renovations versus $90 million for Mock City. WTF. Where did that money go? And shout out to Harp City. Welcome to becoming a member. I appreciate you. All right, so here, oh my gosh. If listen, y'all, if seeing this type of stuff is hard for you, then you might want to turn away for a minute, because this is tough to look at. But he has some leads on his body, so I'm just going to assume he's alive. But this is, and these are released publicly. This is Lesean Thompson, and this is what he had to go through. You see all these bed bug bites. Look, they couldn't even get the leads on there properly. Here. All over here. Nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves that. For a misdemeanor battery charge, y'all. Madeira said there's bugs on the leads. Yeah, you saw that? I don't know if it looks like, yeah, it looks like a horror movie. Inhumane, heartbreaking, how horrible. I freak out with one, can imagine what he went through. Les says, where could you put the remaining detainees until they go to trial? There's plenty of other places they could go. Let's see what actually was his misdemeanor crime. Yeah, I tried to find it. As I mentioned earlier, Madeira, misdemeanor battery charge could be anything. And also, I don't think it matters because he was in jail. So you're innocent until proven guilty, right? This was an innocent man that died this way. He hadn't been convicted. It's sad. It's sad. I really wanted to go through this investigation from the Department of Justice, but we're kind of running out of time. What do y'all think? If y'all want to review some of this real quick, do me a favor. I won't get y'all a type of one. Let me see. And we'll go through this. Y'all let me know what you think. Amy says, over a simple battery, a misdemeanor. Yeah, and I'm going to read, just because I want y'all to understand. We went over this a lot when I was serving on a grand jury here in Fulton County. Misdemeanor battery is like a joke. It really is. Ashley Linnell says, ClassE, how do we get involved? We're not in Fulton County. I posted earlier in the chat, and let me see if I can find it. The email for Sheriff Labatt, you can email him. You could also email District Attorney's Office. There's other bond projects that Cat Not Williams mentioned that you can reach out to and support as well. If you just rewind the video, you'll be able to see that. I'll also put the information in the description. Let's just see. Let me type this out. I'm going to tell y'all right now, just so you can get an idea. Let me see if I can find it. So physical. In Fulton County, Georgia, simple battery is defined as intentionally making physical contact of an insulting or provoking nature with another person, or intentionally causing physical harm to another. Here are some instances. Spitting on someone, as I mentioned. This act is considered insulting and provoking physical contact. Pushing or shoving. Engaging in physical altercation where one person intentionally pushes or shoves another. Like I mentioned, you're in the grocery store. Someone bumps into you. You push them. Like, hey, get off of me. Simple battery. Misdemeanor. Slapping. Intentionally striking someone with an open hand. Grabbing someone's arm. Y'all saw Miss Love, simple. She was committing all types of battery on Miss Hilton during this trial. No, that's not simple assault. That's simple battery here. I don't know where you're at, Mr. Brown, but that's battery. Like I said, battery, in my opinion, especially simple battery, is kind of a joke. Grabbing someone's arm, forcefully seizing another person's arm without their consent. Throwing an object at someone. Hurling an item that makes contact with another person, even if it doesn't cause injury. So if y'all ever, Mr. Brown, my guys in here, y'all ever been on the basketball court and you've been playing basketball and it got heated, you going back and forth, somebody throws a ball at you. You may have heard of this in the John Morant case. That is simple battery here in Fulton County. They throw a ball or they get angry and they throw a ball in your direction. Simple battery. And if someone's dealing with mental health and they have schizophrenia, they could have been acting angry. They could have been speaking loud, spit at someone. We don't know. These actions, when done intentionally and without consent, can lead to simple battery charges in Fulton County. It's important to note that while these examples are common, each case is unique and evaluated based on the specific circumstances. Amy said he had mental health issues and he was having a rough day and they had to charge him with something to get him in the mental wing of the jail because the family didn't have the funds to pay for treatment at a private facility. Wow. I tell y'all, man, when I served on that grand jury for the 3 months that I did, and I got to learn about the legal system and some of these laws, it'll change your mind about how you move, how you interact with people, the things that you do, and it'll make you dig even deeper into not only the laws from a federal standpoint, but from a state standpoint, from a local standpoint, because they change. You can drive 5 miles and you could be in trouble. Even with, I don't, and never will smoke. But even with weed, you can drive out of Fulton County and you can get arrested if you have a certain weed or just have weed in general. So again, it's just a call for y'all to be conscious of what's going on in the laws wherever you're at. Because let's be real, a simple misdemeanor could cost you your life, and you could be totally and completely innocent. You could be in a situation where I talk to my kids all the time to where they only saw the second person. You say, oh, well, they pushed me first. Or I was playing basketball and he elbowed me too hard and I threw the ball back at him because I was mad. Doesn't matter. You're in Rice Street for a couple of days. Could be anybody. That's why I stay my buttons in the house. I don't be out here. Leave me alone, man. All right, let's get into it. It looks like most of y'all, so we had 17% of y'all said no, you don't want to review the DOJ report. And most of you said yes. So let's look at this real quick. What we'll do is I'll skip all the introduction in the background. We already know Rice Street is a shithole. So let's go to the civil rights violations identified. And we're starting with them early, right on page 7. Here we go. I missed it. So this is the intro, page 7. All right, y'all ready? Let me read a couple more comments and we'll get into it. Les Cleaver says, Fanny don't care. She is a heartless biatch, a heartless bitch. Auto Doctor says the officer said he spit on one of them. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm a homebody too. Yeah, I keep my butt in the house. Y'all, I'm gonna be in here. Nope, not worth it. I mean, if you spit on me, that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that is what it is. Les said the state should have paid for the mental health treatment. Yeah, maybe. Mama J says, I think it's funny that Miss Fanny tried to make a name for herself with Trump and the YSL trial, and all she did was put a spotlight on her incompetence and unethical decisions. Mr. Boombasky said, that's why they built sidewalks. The street ain't for everybody. Tell them about it. I live on the sidewalk. That's my favorite place. I was just on the sidewalk this morning. Amy says officers refused to administer CPR because, in her words, she freaked out and they didn't want bugs in their mouth. Yeah, they should have had tools for that though. But I guess if the bugs were all over them, they could have been crawling up the mask. That is insane, Amy. She said they watched him die. They watched him die. Shout out to DEI though. Here we go. So this Department of Justice investigation into Rice Street. Let's check it out real quick. Civil rights violations identified. We find reasonable cause to believe that Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office violate constitutional and federal statutory rights of people incarcerated in the Fulton County Jail. I'm cursing a lot today, but we're going to edit it, so we're good. Protection from harm. The Fulton County Jail does not adequately protect incarcerated people from a substantial risk of serious harm from violence by other incarcerated people inside the facilities. Its facilities. We got to see it live in 4K. Someone getting stabbed. Violent acts by incarcerated people against other incarcerated people in the jail include homicides, stabbings, and sexual abuse. People with serious mental illness, people identified as gay or transgender, and we heard this from the Department of Justice, and young people are particularly vulnerable to violence in the jail. Poor supervision, classification, jail maintenance, contraband control, and investigations contribute to the unacceptable violence. Correction officials have a duty to protect prisoners from violence at the hands of prisoners. Jail officials violate the 8th and 14th Amendment rights of those in their custody when they are deliberately indifferent to an excessive risk of violence. Occasional isolated attacks by one prisoner or on another may not constitute cruel and unusual punishment, but confinement in a prison where violence and terror reign is actionable. Deliberate indifference may be established where serious inmate on inmate violence is the norm or something close to it. And it sounded like, from what we heard from Woody and several others that was the case. We even got to see a video of it last week. Failure to classify or separate violent from nonviolent people can amount to deliberate indifference and create an excessive risk of violence to the incarcerated population. The failure to adequately supervise and monitor incarcerated people, provide sufficient staffing, confiscate dangerous contraband, and investigate misconduct may also constitute deliberate indifference and expose incarcerated people to a substantial risk of serious harm. And if we can know and prove that Rice Street was used as a tool by the DA's office to pressure some of these plea deals, man, stuff's about to hit the fan. I wonder if Trump's going to get involved in this. I don't know that he would, but I mean, Fannie's already taking shots at him, so we'll have to see what happens there. The jail exposes incarcerated people to extreme violence and the risk of serious harm. Leadership at the county and sheriff's office are aware of the violence in the jail and have publicly decried it. That's true. Yet they have failed to adequately action to address the crisis, and homicides, stabbings, and other violent actions continue at dangerous levels. Killings, stabbings, and assaults are common in the jail. In less than 24 hours, in August 2023, at least 7 people were stabbed and one was killed in the jail. Good Lord. The violence spanned 5 units and 3 floors in less than 24 hours. So you get in there, you're in trouble. It started at 11:30 p.m. when officers discovered that people from one housing zone had opened their zone door and entered another zone to assault people. They just discovered it. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Why are the doors open over there? Frank, you gonna go check that out? And I just finished my lunch. I don't want to go over there. All right. The next day at 2:21 p.m., an officer heard screaming coming from a restrictive housing unit on the 7th floor. He found one incarcerated person with blood on his shoulder and a second incarcerated person on the floor in a pool of blood. That person died from multiple stab wounds. The locking mechanism for the doors in that unit had been broken, and while officers tried to secure the scene, incarcerated people kept trying to assault each other. One incarcerated person had to be treated for exhaustion. Almost simultaneously, 5 minutes later, at 2:26, a sergeant found another incarcerated man with blood on his face and chest in another unit. The victim required emergency medical transportation for multiple puncture wounds to his face and back following an attack. At 9:15 p.m., an officer tased someone to break up a fight. Medical attention for the taser deployment was delayed because the jail was overwhelmed with stretcher calls. From 2022 to the present, 6 incarcerated people have died in violent attacks at the jail. Oh, here we go. They're going to lay it out for us. In April 2024, this year, a 37-year-old man died after being assaulted by another incarcerated person. Medical staff found the victim lying at the entrance of the housing unit with multiple wounds and covered in blood. The victim was stabbed 20 times with a 9-inch weapon and sustained stab wounds to the neck, head, torso, arms, and legs. And this is in less than 24 hours, y'all. In August of 2023, a 23-year-old man died when he was stabbed multiple times by one or more other incarcerated people as described above. The victim was found lying face down on the floor of the day room in a pool of blood with deep lacerations to his upper back. He had stab wounds on his head, neck, abdomen, back, and arms. August 2023. A 34-year-old man died from strangulation. The victim was found unresponsive in his cell. They're going to keep this place open, though. In November 2022, a 32-year-old man died in the mental health unit after his cellmate allegedly assaulted him. The victim's feet were bound, and he had a bloody nose and raccoon eyes, a sign of head trauma. Medical responders reported that his body was cold to the touch. In October 2022, a 20-year-old man, so young, died in the mental health unit after being strangled by his cellmate. The victim was found wrapped in a county-issued blanket with straps tied around his ankles, knees, waist, chest, and neck. In September of 2022, a 33-year-old man died after being stabbed by another incarcerated person. The victim had a stab wound between his shoulder and neck and a deep gaping wound below his elbow. A significant percentage of the homicide victims had one or more serious mental illnesses. All have been incarcerated for months or years. Their average length of stay in the jail was 253 days. The longest stay was 654 days. Okay, so these aren't the ones that happened within 24 hours. The ones they mentioned earlier were, these people had been in there for a longer time. So excuse me, all. All 6 victims were black men. Shocker. Half of the homicides at the jail involved sharpened weapons. I would assume so. Assaults and stabbings with man-made shanks are a feature of the life at the jail. In May of 2024, 4 incarcerated people entered another man's cell and stabbed him 8 times in his sleep. It's interesting how they just say they entered his cell. Goes to the conditions of the jail. Days before the April 2024 stabbing death, another incarcerated man was stabbed in the head and did not seek medical treatment for 10 hours because of the ongoing threats on his life. One of the 2023 homicide victims was injured in 3 previous stabbings at the jail. So this wasn't his first rodeo. According to the sheriff's office reports in 2023, there were 1,054 assaults on incarcerated people and 314 stabbings in the jail. We mentioned they did not stab people on Sunday. It's essentially what it turns out to. 52 Sundays in a year plus 314. It's 366 days. In 2023, the rate of stabbing at the jail was 1.5 times the rate of stabbings in the New York City jail and more than 27 times the rate of all incidents involving an edged weapon in the Miami-Dade County jails. The jail had as many stabbings in a single month as the Miami-Dade jails, which housed 1.5 times more people had all year. I had knives put to my throat, and I had to call my mom telling them, please wire somebody some money or I'm going to be killed. Nobody should be subject to that at a jail where you're supposed to be waiting to get your day in court. Fulton County Jail detainee, September 2023 meeting of Board of Commissioners. And again, a lot of the people that were in Rice Street were innocent. And here's a graph there. They show the rate of stabbings. Look at this. Good God. Rate of stabbings per 100,000 people. Fulton County, whoop. New York, not as bad. Miami-Dade seems like a pretty safe place. I hate to say. Now, whoever thought Whoever thought you would say that. We also analyzed violence in jail by examining violent incidents in the same 2 months in consecutive years. More people were injured in violent incidents during February and August 2023 than during February and August of 2022. Generally, violence in the jail appears to have increased from 2022 to 2023.
These niggas lacking.
Interesting. Because didn't we just hear Mr. Labat say, hey, since I got in office, we've been doing some great things and we've been making some progress. We've been putting things in place. But honestly, hey, we just didn't have the right funding and we didn't have the right people in place. The DOJ found that there haven't been any improvements. It's actually gotten worse. The violence in the jail has appeared to have increased. And from February to August of 2023, the amount of violence remained high, even as the population declined. Violent incidents at the main jail, a 10-day comparison. February, August, 2022, February, August. I mean, can we say neglect here? Sheriff Labat, this is your responsibility. What happened? Things got worse. We got more violent. Don't blame funding. Please. Rice Street says the DA dangled Rice Street over the witness's head, hoping they would turn on Thug, which was being held in Cobb County. There's got to be a way they can prove this. Somebody saying, you want to go to Rice Street? Which didn't we hear with Condarius Zachary and his dad on the phone with the detective being like, hey, I'm just trying to help y'all out. We'll send him to Rice Street. Y'all remember that phone call? That really unprofessional phone call? In the first 9 months of 2023, there were over 200 emergency transports of incarcerated people to an outside hospital for injuries from assaults. In one case, in August of 2023, medical staff at the jail treated an incarcerated person after several other incarcerated people reportedly stabbed him in the face and beat him. He reported pain and difficulty breathing, and medical staff sent him to the hospital for a possible rib fracture. In July of 2023, an incarcerated person was sent to the hospital after another assault by multiple people. He had 9 total stab wounds and required care from complex lacerations and to rule out a tendon injury in his hand. In May of 2023, an incarcerated person was sent to the hospital for injuries to his scalp, chest, arm, thigh, back, hand from stabbing. His assault used a 16-inch shank in the attack. There were more emergency medical transports from the jail for injuries from assaults over this 9-month period in 2023 than there were in all of 2022. Sheriff Labat, what happened? You said things were cool. This does not sound okay to me. 233 emergency transports following assaults from January 1st to September 2023, compared to 199 emergency transports following assaults in 2022. In some cases, officers have allowed or initiated violence at the jail. Interesting. In February of 2023, a detention officer opened the door to let an incarcerated person leave his assigned housing zone and entered another housing zone where he and multiple others attacked someone. Although the officer witnessed the assault, she did not report it or get medical help for the victim, and she later sprayed cleaning solution on the blood. The officer was terminated and criminally charged for her conduct. In April 2022, a jail deputy was fired after he opened an incarcerated person's cell, brought him to another person's cell, then stood by and watched as the two men fought. When a federal court ended a prior consent decree over the conditions at the jail 9 years ago. The sheriff's department had reported 2 physical assaults with a weapon in the jail in January 2015, and there's such assaults such assaults in December of 2014. By comparison, there were 7 stabbing incidents in January of 2024 and 10 stabbings in December of 2023. Good God. Over 3 times the reported number of assaults with any type of weapon at the end of the court's oversight. There is also reason to believe that the sheriff's office data does not capture the true extent of the violence inside the jail. I believe it. Not all violent incidents at the jail are reported and appropriately documented. For example, in September of 2023, we advised counsel for the county and the sheriff's office of a report that an incarcerated person had been stabbed the week before and required medical attention. In response, the jail's medical staff met with this person and confirmed that he had multiple stab wounds to his chest, back, and hands. No incident report documents this assault, and the person told the medical staff that although he reported the stabbing to an officer, he was not taken to medical for treatment until he alerted counsel of the incident. We also identified instances of incarcerated people transported to an outside hospital for injuries consistent with violent assaults without incident reports documenting what had occurred. I mean, I could sit here and read through this all day. We stopped at page 11. Let's read this last paragraph here. Low staffing levels in the jail described in section 3 contribute to failure to report many violent incidents. Another factor is a victim's fear of retaliation for disclosing the violence. Makes sense. For example, in March of 2024, a victim suffered through the night until the next morning because he was afraid to report that he had been stabbed. Although this victim ultimately reported the assault, he refused to identify the assailants, saying that doing so would put him in danger anywhere in the jail. In a separate incident that month, an incarcerated man with multiple puncture wounds to his back and arm denied having been assaulted, instead insisting he fell out of bed. Fulton County, we got to do better. Mr. Vegas says, I have no words. We're going to continue to shine a light on this. I'm going to save this document and we're going to get through this whole thing. So what I'll do, if we have a break in the upcoming trial, we'll continue to read through this entire document piece by piece until we get through the whole thing and continue to get the word out here about what's happening behind this Fulton County jail system, because it's absolutely corrupt, absolutely terrible. And I can't imagine, man, getting a misdemeanor and going into prison and dying over a misdemeanor, simple battery, something you may be innocent of. And if what they're saying is true, this is supposed to be a holding place for people who are waiting to go to trial, or who are waiting on bond, or who are waiting to speak to their attorneys. It's just not right. All right, let me read a couple more comments. Thank you to everybody who's in here, everyone who liked the video. I appreciate y'all. This has been some rough stuff, but it needs to be talked about. Melissa Hamilton says, what about that college student that was arrested and held due to his name being the same as the other guy that had a warrant? What? Was that here in Georgia? Marcus Watts says, in Los Angeles County Jail, they had flesh-eating bacteria on the walls. The deputies would force us on the walls for punishment. Oh my gosh. Cassie said all plea deals out of Rice Street should be considered illegal and unconstitutional due to coercion. I agree. 1000%. Rice Street says, and this was mentioned in the DOJ's report, this type of environment creates the gang mentality. You have to click up for protection. Absolutely. And then I want to read a couple super chats and I'll get y'all up out of here. Where we go. Shout out to Harp City for becoming a member. Welcome to the member side. And then we have my guy Les Cleaver in here. Drop the 5 bomb. He says prayers for all in Rice Street. Please pray for everyone. Please pray for everyone there, as they are humans first, especially the non-violent ones. Goodness. All right, y'all, we're going to get up out of here. Thank you to everyone who liked the video and watched the show today. We'll be back on Monday. YSL trial is going to be back in session, and I'm sure we're going to have some interesting things. Hopefully we get cross-examination for Officer Big Burrito. Officer Viverito. Let me put some respect on her name, and we'll have to wait and see. Either way, y'all know what to do. Like the video on your way out, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't yet, so you don't miss any time that we go live. And of course, as always, y'all have a great afternoon, and you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We go. Peace. Wow.